Okay.
All right.
um, so yeah, it sounds like rehab was really helpful for you, but uh, what would you say you struggled with the most?
I think the rehab was great. I think the thing I struggle with most is the reentry into your normal everyday life. Because although you have all the tools and the knowledge, you still don't have enough practice. And now you're thrown in, some people, for me, this is true, you're thrown into the same environment. In my case, it was a family environment that was really toxic. And that was a contributing factor to how I coped with things. And so that didn't change. And so you're basically just, white knuckling your own self. And now you're back in that same situation. Sometimes that's not a real good idea.
Hmm. And how do you feel like someone who struggles with addictions, like family and friends, can be helpful to them um, getting used to reentry?
Most parts of a decent treatment center involve family, because predominantly anybody who is an addict or has any sort of addiction issues, they have codependents in their family. Everybody has a part that they play. And so one of the things in treatment, they encourage your family to come and learn. They encourage them to go to Al-Anon or Narcanon or whatever program so that they can start learning their responsibilities to their addict, to themselves, most importantly. And that I think that's one of the reasons. Now, I didn't have the luxury. My family did not come.
Do you think there was a reason for that?
Well, for me, yes. I mean, a lot of my friends that were there had big families, and they were all in on their recovery. And most of these people had been through the ringer with their addicts, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in some cases. And I was not in a situation where I was willing to admit what was really going on in my family. So to do that, I wasn't there yet, and so I was still ashamed and fearing that people would find out. And so I didn't even invite them.
And do you feel like they would have wanted to be invited?
I think my dad and my sister, not my mom, but my former husband would never have gone, or he would have gone, um, so that he could run his own agenda, maybe. But it wouldn't have been helpful for me. But I wish, in hindsight, I would have had my dad and my sister there.
And do you feel like any of that kind of lapse in support could have come from, or your hesitation to invite them could have come from a misunderstanding of addiction that either they had or you thought they had?
I think that quite frequently the misunderstanding about addiction and not wanting to tell anybody or hide it or to be fearful of and being ashamed is a huge factor. I mean, it took everything I had to call my dad and say I'm going, and everybody that I knew, I'm going, because number one, I wanted to be accountable to go. And then secondly, I didn't really want to be ashamed, but I didn't really want them to know, and I didn't really want them to judge me. They get in there, they don't know anything about it. Even if they showed up and they'd say, well, I don't understand, she had a nice family life. It's just, you know,
Hmm.
and if you don't have a family that really is open and without judgment, that's a scary thing.
So do you think recovery would be much easier for addicts if there was less of this stigma surrounding it?
Oh, absolutely. I think I think the stigma of addiction, and then I mean, I don't even remember the statistic. It might be half. I'd have to look it up. That most addicts have, another component. They have a, what is it, comorbidity or something?
Comorbidity? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Um, and so they have more than one thing going on, and that's also shameful. People are still ashamed of having a mental illness. It's not like you were going to choose these things. And I'm I'll tell you that I've known a lot of people to go into treatment, and I've never had one person in where I live now go to treatment and then come out and say, I went to treatment. They hide it. And they don't want anybody to know. And that's not helpful for anybody, because that's all anybody talked about in treatment. I don't want my employer to know. I don't want this person to know. And it makes me sad that we're not there yet, especially when so many famous people, so many idealized people are very open about it. I just wish that would change.
Do you think we'll get there?
I hope so. I don't know. You know, we're told we need to be perfect. And we now all of the kids have to be perfect on camera and on all the social media. The pressure is so intense. I mean, all you can do is, you know, try to keep your side of the street clean. I mean, I would love to be able to solve that, but I can't. But I'm going to talk to anybody who'll listen about
So last question. What would you say to someone struggling with addiction or even mental health issues in terms of what they should do to sort of make things easier? Should they go to rehab?
You know, I don't think, maybe rehab isn't for everyone, and the 12 steps are not for everyone. But the most important thing is to not isolate yourself. The most important thing is to tell somebody that you trust, somebody that's empathetic. And if that means that you don't want to go to a 12-step meeting because you don't believe in God or you don't whatever, go somewhere where you can feel safe and tell someone the truth. Because, you know, being fearful of that is just, and I always say this, you know, shame is just fear disguised. And fear is the path to the dark side. Master Yoda.
Okay, that was really good. I'm gonna get an A. We had cute little, like, oh shoot.
I wasn't recording.
No, it was.